Hello everyone, and a very good afternoon to you. Welcome once again to Monza for the opening round of the Ferrari Challenge. We're into day 2 and therefore races 2 for the TropheoPirelli and Copa categories in the Ferrari Challenge. It's TropheoPirelli that we're going to see on track first, and Monza kicks off the 2015 calendar, as you can see. Where up next we go to Mugello, then it's Hungaroring, Paul Ricard Circuit, Imola, Valencia, and then the Grand Finale Mondiale venue and date to be announced. All the information at corsaclienti.com. That's the website for you to find out everything you need to know with regards to the Ferrari Challenge. So opening round here in Monza, we have some new drivers and we have some drivers that have been with the series for a while, and good crowd here to enjoy the action from the Evo 458s that you're about to see on the circuit. Location then, we are around about 50 minutes or so from central Milan here at Monza, one of the most evocative circuits that we visit, and it's the traditional season opener here at the 5.7 kilometre Monza circuit. And there you can see the 5.7 kilometres in full effect, and the layout of the circuit, including the sectors. And this race 2 for TropheoPirelli about to get underway. And we'll give you some details on some changes to the results from yesterday in just a while. The air temperature, it's cooler than yesterday, 15 degrees C. Track temperature, 30 degrees, as you can see on the graphics on the screen. So the car's beginning to line up on the grid. Rolling start, they have a formation lap, and then the safety car peels off, and it's a rolling start to get the second of the 2 races underway this weekend, and kicking off the championship in season 2015. So Bjorn Grossman, just see pulling into his grid position there. P2 on the grid, Dario Carzo goes from P1, then it's Florian Merckx, P3, and alongside Florian Merckx is the first of the AM drivers to show, Alessandro Vezzoni. Dario Carzo, pole position, and he'll be hoping to make good this afternoon. He didn't have a brilliant race yesterday, unfortunately. He was charging hard in 3rd place, and some, I'm led to believe from one of his race engineers, was some contact with another car, which we certainly didn't see, rendered the car unable to complete the race. So Dario utterly pointless from his charge yesterday. Which is a great shame, so he'll be hoping to make good today, and he's done the best possible thing in qualifying by banging the car on pole position. So it's all for Dario's taken, if you like, from the very start of this race in but a few moments' time. P2 is Bjorn Grossman, and we're looking back from Bjorn Grossman's car from our onboard camera, and there is Alessandro Vezzoni, who is P1 in the AM category, because we have pro drivers and AM drivers across the grid. Meantime, let's take a look at where we are then in Monza. So some excellent shots of our Monza circuit here and the surrounding area. Fantastic town centre in Monza, which we enjoyed last night. And as I said earlier, good crowd here to enjoy the Ferrari action on track from the challenge this afternoon. Dario Carzo then, the man that yesterday wasn't able to finish the race, and had the bit between his teeth when it came to qualifying today, and in so doing has plonked the car on pole position. So Dario Carzo, one of the enigmatic characters in the paddock, will be hoping to convert that P1 qualifying into P1 in the race results. So Dario Carzo, P1, alongside him Bjorn Grossman for Octane 126. Then it's Florian Merckx. All those 3 drivers are pro drivers. Then we see the first of the AM drivers, which is Alessandro Vezzoni, driving for Rosso Corsa Pellin. The first AM driver, but he is P4 on the grid overall. Then it's David Gosner, the Ineco MP racing driver, with Ferrano alongside him in P6. Segler is P7, and David Gadri then is P8. Next row of the grid, row 5, sees Tommaso Roca and Alexis Di Bernardi alongside with Nicholas Sturzinger and another long-serving campaigner, Robert Pergel, alongside him. Babalos and Martin Nelson with Ramelli and Lukinov occupying P15 and P16 with Dusan Pulkra and Joe Macari and Steve Earle then on the final row of the grid. Babalos then, Matteo has raced under the pseudonym Babalos for his entire racing career, same pseudonym used by his father in his racing career, as we look now at Bjorn Groisman, who starts from P2 for Octane 1, 2, 6. Full of focus there for Bjorn Groisman. So let's take a look at the highlights then from race 1, which happened here at Monza just yesterday. So at the end of the race yesterday, as you just saw, Tommaso Roca there, both Martin Nelson and Alessandro Vezzoni were penalised, and Roca was promoted to the first place in the AM category. Second went to Andreas Segler, while third was Nicholas Sturzinger, who took third place. So a change to the result then after the end of the race in the AM category yesterday. And we're not far from the race getting underway now. So there's two classifications in this TropheoPirelli race, those for the pro drivers and those for the AM driver, as well, of course, as the race overall. So the first three on the grid are all pro drivers, and we see our first of our AMs, which is Alessandro Vezzoni, who got penalised yesterday. Then it's Gosner and Frano, both pro drivers, and then it's Segler, Gadri and Roca, who, of course, starts from P9 today. And here is Alessandro Vezzoni that we're on board with. You can see the little AM logo in the bottom left of the graphics, and you'll see a pro logo for those drivers that are in the pro category, and that's just to help you along the way throughout the entire race today. As cars get ready for the off then, what will happen is the Hublot safety car will lead the cars off on their formation lap, and the safety car will peel in, and providing race control completely happy with the way that the front row are controlling the rolling lap, then they will be released, and we will be in for our second 35-minute race of the TropheoPirelli category of Ferrari Challenge this afternoon here at Monza. So it's Carzo from Groisman, Merckx, then Vezzoni, then Gosner and Frano and Segler and David Gadri. Then it's Roca and Di Bernardi, Sturzinger, Pergel, Babalos, Nelson, Ramelli, Lukinov, Palka, Macari and Earle. That's the way they line up. So there is the Hublot safety car then, on its way to start the formation lap. The cars will be released off the grid any second now. Indeed, they get the green flag and the cars are released from the grid for this formation lap. As we can see, the cars get away. So there on screen now, all the social media where you can be in touch with the Ferrari Challenge, all up on screen for you. And of course the website at corsaclienti.com is where you can also check it out as well. Now yesterday, the Parabolica, Joe Macari and Stephen Earle didn't finish the race due to contact between the two, and having a look at Joe Macari's car earlier, I can't imagine that it's on the grid, and I suspect not of Steve Earle either, but we will check it out as the cars come through. Florian Merckx's all gold livery car that we follow there. And we go on board with Alessandro Vezzoni, again with the little green AM logo in the bottom of the graphics there, indicating that he is the AM driver. An AM driver and the best of the AM drivers in terms of qualifying thus far. Effectively P1 for the AM category, P4 in the race overall. Squadra Corse, pit garage that we were in there just a couple of moments ago. There's Alexis Di Bernardi, the blue and black front to his car. And we're on board with another AM driver now, Nicholas Sturzinger from Foytech Racing, who is going from P6. With regards to his AM classification, is actually P11 in the grid overall. And the Hublot safety car back into shot then, as it picks up the cars on their formation lap. Dario Carzo weaving very, very vigorously from side to side, trying to get some warmth into those tyres. It's marginally cooler than it was yesterday, but not by much. And there you can see just how aggressive Dario Carzo is, and he means business today to make up for the lost points yesterday. Will desperately want to win this, and so too will Bjorn Grossman. In fact, so too will everyone that's out there, but Dario Carzo has put himself in the best possible position, going from P1. He's qualifying with a vengeance this morning as we take our tour through the garages now. As the teams and the sense of anticipation and anxiety in the team garages is matched only by that of the drivers that are sitting in those cars right now as they head towards getting this race underway. So the safety car backs them up now and gets them all into grid order, and Dario Carzo continuing just to weave from side to side there as they head up towards the final turn here, which is turn 11, the Curva Parabolica. And the safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and then it will be the responsibility of Dario Carzo and Bjorn Grossman to control the pace of the rolling lap as they head towards lights out, and we will go racing. So we stay on board with the Hublot safety car. Yesterday the start was very exciting. Sure, it's going to be the same today as they all head to that bottleneck, which is the Variante del Rettifio chicane. Lights are red at the moment. You can see they're already jostling for position before the lights have even gone out. Let's go racing. We do. 1 or 2 there might be called out with a jump start, but we've got 35 minutes of race action to come. Bjorn Grossman has had a torrid start from P2. He's been mugged. Dario Carzo has converted thus far. P1 into the lead. David Ghostner jostling for position as well. They're never all going to fit through that chicane. And one caught up in the middle of that lot is the Octane 126 driver, Bjorn Grossman, I'm sure. Well, there was absolutely no way they were all going to go through there. That is Bjorn Grossman, who's right at the back now. So brilliant start from Babylos, who has vaulted I don't know how many places up the order. But I just wonder whether the start will be under investigation, because it looked like there were some cars trading places long before the lights went green. There's Dario Carzo, who's leading. Another one that's made a blistering start is David Ghostner, who's up to P2. And Florian Merckx is in P3. And here we can see just how busy it got through that chicane. And, well, Roca was one of the ones involved there, as you can see. 3 abreast. It was never going to work. Bjorn Grossman gets turned around because he was the meat in the sandwich there. At the moment, the only one that's being reported is Thomas O'Roca, car number 97, under investigation for potentially jump start. You can see that on screen now. Not sure he was the only one, if truth be told. But what matters is, and you can see some damage to Florian Merckx's car at the front as well. So Florian Merckx obviously involved in the wars that went on there also. Dario Carzo leads the race from David Ghostner and Florian Merckx. Alexis Di Bernardi going through there. Here they come to complete another lap then on the Monza circuit, and Dario Carzo is just under a second to the good of David Gausner, but Gausner is charging hard, and Florian Merckx now is taking a look up the inside of Alessandro Vezzoni, thinks better of it. So Carzo, Gausner, Vezzoni, Merckx, Nelson, then it is Ferrano before we see Babelis in P7. There's Florian Merckx, definite damage to the right-hand side of that car, as you can see, but at the moment it's not compromising the pace of the car at all. And that's how Florian Merckx got involved in the damage. Then really did fly over those rumble strips. Vezzoni did jolly well to avoid clattering into the back of the Florian Merckx car, as we can see there in replay. And there to the very right is Christian Hobone watching the racing. He's one of the Copa Shell drivers. So Carzo leads, and the whole start now being told by race control is under investigation, and that surprises me little, if truth be told. Carzo's increased the lead over David Gausner by a big margin. It's now 1.8 seconds. So Gausner now is going to shortly fall into the clutches of Alessandro Vezzoni potentially. And you can see on screen also confirmation that the start is under investigation. So Dario Carzo then hoping to make good from yesterday's troubles. Certainly doing so in the early stages of this race. He converted his P1 starting position into the race lead immediately. And while all heaven was breaking out behind him, he was able to go about his business. So Martin Nelson and Babelis are together, and Tommaso Rocca then is in, and this looks, the speed is going through the pit lane, pretty terminal for Tommaso Rocca then. So car number 97, and look at that door. Just indicative of how much damage was caused in the opening skirmishes, if you like, in the Ferrari Challenge. This, the TropheoPirelli race. And the standings for the pro category then. It's Carzo, Gausner, then it's Merckx, Babelis and Ferrano. And then the standings in the AM category, it's Vezzoni and Nelson and Segler and Sturzinger, the top four, with Di Bernardi and Ramelli and Lukinov and David Gadri occupying the next positions. And the Rocca, we've already seen the car in the pit lane. Well, Babelis has managed to find his way past Martin Nelson, and now he will be hightailing it after Florian Merckx now. Watching Ferrano then in car number 59, we were just moments ago. And look, now that Babelis has been released, if you like, from the slower Martin Nelson, he's really got away, as Dario Carzo also getting away and sets the fastest lap of 1:52.165. That fastest lap coming on lap 2 of the race. So Dario Carzo definitely meaning business. Early on, David Gausner was putting up quite a charge and challenge towards Dario Carzo, but the gap now, as you can see, has gone to 1%. Oh, no. What's wrong? Carzo's got another problem. Yesterday, Carzo had issues. So what has gone wrong with Dario Carzo again? My goodness me. He has had no luck this weekend. Well, he's still running. And now he seems to... Has he got the power back? Being hounded by Babelis and also Florian Merckx. Babelis, of course, trying to get past Florian Merckx. And Florian Merckx being warned to respect the track limits. Well, Dario Carzo hangs him out to dry there through the Variante Rettifio, the first chicane here. So Florian Merckx, now Babelis is going to try and go around the outside at the Curva Grande here, and does so. He's got past Florian Merckx. But the curious one here is Dario Carzo, who has now dropped back to P3. Did we just see a little puff of smoke from Dario Carzo's car, I wonder there? So there is Dario Carzo then, who led this race from the off and then suddenly slowed, which allowed Gausner and Vezzoni pass. So our new leader is this man, David Gausner, the Gausner family. 4 cars in the Ferrari Challenge across this weekend. There's David Gausner, Thomas Gausner, there's also Corinna, and Corinna's sister that races as well, Manuela. And, well, David Gosner is leading the race now. And Dario Carzo, whatever issues he had, either he's being able to control it, and that means he stays in that P3 position, or he made an error and lost a significant lump of time, which was enough to allow Gosner and Vezzoni to go past. Not going to know the answer to that probably until after the race. In the meantime, it's Gosner who's been gifted the lead with Vezzoni in P2. So we have a pro driver leading the race overall. We have an AM driver in second place. And there they come. Dario Carzo still holding on to P3. Babelas is, well, not very far behind him. In fact, just 4/10 behind him, and closing all the time. We've got a drive-through penalty for car number 97, Thomas Roca, for jump start. Well, when last we looked, Roca was in the pit lane, but according to the timing screen, he's back out on track once again, so he's going to have to come back to the pit lane and serve his drive-through penalty. So this is a replay of the start then. As you can see, Dario Carzo was just on a charge and was never going to be troubled. Bjorn Grossman was the one that was stuck right in the middle of that sandwich there and ends up getting clattered into and turned around. And we can see it on board perhaps from this position. We're on board the Tommaso Roca car, and that, of course, reinforcing the fact that he did jump the start, which is what he's been given a penalty for. And that, well, not only did he jump the start, but was involved in that skirmish as well. And thanks to Franco for throwing that replay in, because in holding it for on board as long as we did, we were able to get the answer to some of our questions from earlier in the race. Right, so back to where we were then. Gosner leads from Vezzoni, from Carzo, from Babelas. Babelas not been able to find his way past Carzo yet. Look back at car number 94 being driven by Ramelli. And there is David Gadri in car number 48, currently running in P11. So that was a huge jump start from car number 97. And it's no wonder that he's got a drive-through penalty for it. All came to naught, of course, because he got clattered around at the first chicane. So David Gadri then in car number 48, currently down there P11, running P6 in the AM category. Gosner leads from Vezzoni, and there is Dario Carzo, who's now going to be hounded unquestionably by Babelas. As I mentioned, Matteo, his Christian name, has raced under that pseudonym Babelas for his entire racing career in Swedish GTs, also in single-seaters as well. And it's a pseudonym used by his father to great effect as well, so it's stuck as something of a family trait, if you like. And he is currently P4 in the race, but I have a feeling that whatever issues Dario Carzo has, whilst he may be masking them very well at the moment, Babelas is right on his tail, and I think it's only a question of time before Babelas tries to get past Dario Carzo, but Carzo's probably going to go for Alessandro Vezzoni before that happens. And yes, they're very near side by side now, and Carzo weaves to the other side. There's a blue flag being waved. We're all fighting for track position, of course, and well, Carzo, that was a monumental move by him. Now that puts him back up into P2. So, again, be after the race before we can get to the bottom of what happened to Dario Carzo, which gifted the lead to David Gosner, as we see some high-flying action from David Gadri then in car number 48, as he really rather aggressive over the curbs and getting the car all lit up. Now Alessandro Vezzoni has Babelas for company right behind him, and his rearview mirrors will be full of that blue and yellow livery from the front of the 458 that's driven by Babelas. Vezzoni then P1 in the AM category, of course. And now is Babelas going to make a move on Vezzoni going into the chicane. He dives up the inside here. Now he's got to make this move absolutely stick. Dario Carzo's right ahead of Vezzoni, and Babelas does it and executes the move really, very, very well indeed, and gets past Vezzoni, gets a little bit of oversteer out of the chicane. He's able to hold on to it and control it. And he moves up a further place. So now P3 for Babelas. And this is our race leader, David Gosner. Okay, what we're going to do right now is take a look at the times between Gosner and Carzo. In the last sector, the gap between them was 1.188 overall, so we'll see. Sector time certainly quicker from Carzo. Sector 1, 34.8. Gosner, 35.2. Carzo's got his mojo back, but he's got Babylos for company as well. So Carzo being hunted as well as hunting. Gosner, Carzo, and then Babylos, the top three going through. Gosner's last overall lap was a 1:52.985. And across sector 2, Carzo was quicker than Gosner, 38.3. Gosner was 38.5, but Babylos 37.9 in sector 2. So the middle sector, Babylos was quickest of anyone through sector 1, was quicker than our race leader in sector 2 and quicker than P2 in sector 2. So Babylos is the one that is making the progress here, and he is the one that we're going to have to watch out for. We've got 21.5 minutes or so left of race action. Car number 8, Dario Carzo, is being warned with regards to respecting track limits through turn 10, which is the exit of the Ascari. And now Gosner has seen his lead of over 1 second diminish to less, or just over half a second, as Carzo is right on David Gosner now to try and wrestle that lead back that he started the race with, and then mysteriously he lost 2 places for no obvious apparent reason. And now Carzo is chasing down David Gosner for the lead that he feels is justly his. So this is going to be very exciting now, because in the mix as well is the hard-charging Babylos. We've got 3 pro drivers racing at the front here. David Gosner, Dario Carzo. Look, Carzo's taken another 2 tenths out of the margin. It's down to 343.343 now. Carzo means business, and he's back with a bang. Another warning going out for track limits to car number 93 also. Nicholas Sturzinger, but these 3 all in a row now. And David Gosner has got his rearview mirror full of the black and red machine of Dario Carzo, who in turn has got the blue and yellow of Babylos in his rearview mirror. The front brake discs light up as the braking force is applied by David Gosner. As around the Curva Parabolica they come, and is Carzo going to have a move now into the chicane? I think he is. David Gosner on the outside, Dario Carzo diving up the inside. Now, last time around, Carzo used this, and oh, they touch! There is contact between Gosner and Carzo. But Carzo has done enough, and he's wrestled back the lead. And boy, it's been hard work for him, but he's done it. So Carzo back into the lead. Gosner relegated to P2. Babylos now P3. Well, Carzo executed that almost perfectly into the turn 1 Rettifio as Manuela Gosner looks on. Into the Rettifio chicane, Dario Carzo now, and already he's built up some 5 tenths over David Gosner. Just under 6 tenths in fairness. So Dario Carzo then. David Gosner is now going to have to defend and defend and defend, which is why the gap immediately has become so big, because he has got Babylos all over the back of him. And you can just sense that Babylos is looking for an opportunity, any chance to get right alongside David Gosner. Not quite close enough to do it there. So Carzo off then into the distance with a full 1.1 second margin. And this is how he did it. And that's where the touch was. And Gosner just leaned on the corner of Dario Carzo. Carzo was having none of it. He was coming through, and, well, credit to all three of them. All of them made the chicane without a problem at all. Right, now is Babylos going to line up Ghostner for a repeat move, a duplicate, a photocopy of how Carzo did it just a while ago. You'd think that Ghostner will be wise to it and he'll make that 4.58 as wide as he possibly can. Babylos now dives up the inside. Is he close enough? I think he probably is, and I think Ghostner is going to get mugged again. For the second time of asking at exactly the same place, he loses another place. And now Babylos goes through to take up P2. So it's Carzo, Babylos, Ghostner, the 1, 2, 3 now. All pro drivers. And those places on consecutive laps having changed then. So now is Babylos going to take the fight to Dario Carzo? Oh, I think so. This is going to turn into a final 17 minutes fraught with fury, I think. And David Ghostner just didn't have the pace to be able to defend that move. You can see those brake discs lighting up from David Ghostner, pushing the car as hard as he possibly can. And Babylos now will be, well, on the road and up to the challenge of Dario Carzo. The margin between them is just under a second. It was 0.987. Well, Carzo's increased that a little bit through the second sector so that the margin becomes 1.1. There's Alessandro Vezzoni, who we've kind of hardly mentioned, who is running P1 in the AM class. He's P4 overall. But to be fair, there's been so much action between the top three that that's what we've had to focus on. And here's a replay then. And that the back end of the Ferrano car that we're looking at from Nicolas Sturzinger. Here's our race leader, Dario Carzo, around the Parabolica, heading for the timing line once again, Dario Carzo. And the gap now between Dario Carzo and Babylos is 1.369. So Carzo eking out the gap a little bit. There's exactly a second between Babylos and David Ghostner, and there is Ghostner. Carzo getting just a little bit wayward on the exit of the Rettifio Varianti. Florian Merckx goes straight on, not able to scrub off enough speed. That'll be noted by the race steward. So Carzo, Babylos, Ghostner. The 1, 2, 3. First AM to show is Alessandro Vezzoni. Florian Merckx, we just see the back end of the car there. He is pro driver in P6 behind Martin Nelson. So Nelson and Florian Merckx there. Already notified on the timing screen, car number 88, Florian Merckx straight on at T1. Well, we saw that being played out live. Battle for the third position in the AM categories between Segler and Sturzinger. Meantime, up front, the Carzo lead has been extended by another 0.3. It's now 1.4 over Babylos. Florian Merckx then driving for the Baron service team. We're on board with Nicolas Sturzinger then. And Florian Merckx being given a warning flag, doubtless for that excursion through the chicane rather than round it. And on board with Sturzinger then. Onboard images that we're able to bring you. Oh, and Florian Merckx is off in big style. Could just see from that onboard shot earlier that it looked like there was a car out. And that's obviously what it was, Florian Merckx. Well, damage to the front and the rear of the car now. He manages to get it back out on the track and sprayed a load of gravel all over the circuit in as well. There we are, got out onto the runoff area and ends up being clattered into the tyres. So Florian Merckx then, who's been trying very, very hard, arguably too hard, because that car ends up whilst back on the track, not after, only after an excursion through the gravel and into the tyre barrier. So Dario Carzo and Babylos, and now Babylos steps up the challenge once again because the gap has been brought down to 0.832, and Florian Merckx is utterly livid. You can see that in the car. Sector 1, Quickest of everyone was Babylos with a 34.5 compared to 34.9 for Dario Carzo. Florian Merckx then. Well, today wasn't going to be his day, was it? That's for sure. And you could see just how angry he was when he returned to the pit lane. There is David Gosner, who for a good while led the race, but is now untroubled, if you like, between Alessandro Vezzoni, because Gosner is in P3 and Vezzoni is well, very nearly 3 seconds behind him. So he's untroubled at the moment. Is David Gosner in that the final of the podium positions, and in the pro category, David Gosner, who went into this P6 in the championship following race 1 yesterday. Be a good number of points for him as a whole today. Babylos, though, is slowly but surely closing in on the back of the Italicus car of Dario Carzo. Margin down to just 0.7 of a second now between Carzo and Babylos. Dario Carzo, who led from the off and then for some mysterious reason lost a couple of places as the car slowed, has had to really fight hard to get that lead back again. Yesterday's race saw him with a retirement. And that's a replay of when Dario Carzo was behind Alessandro Vezzoni. So that was much earlier in the race. Super slow, super high def slow-mo there. But here is Carzo. As I say, he retired from the race yesterday, so utterly pointless with regards to results for him, and led to believe by his race engineer that the retirement was brought about from earlier contact in the race, which, I have to be honest, we certainly didn't see on screen. But there we are. What caused it is irrelevant, really. He didn't finish the race. But he's certainly hoping to finish this one, and hope to finish this one on the top step of the podium. We've got just under 11 minutes left to run, and already he's coming up against back-marking cars. The first of those is going to be Tommaso Roca, who's penalised, who was penalised earlier, of course, for jumping the start, and he's back down there in P15 now. We've seen in the pit lane Florian Merckx. We saw his temper to full effect, didn't we, in the cockpit of the car just a while ago. Then Robert Purgle's also in the pit lane, and so too is Bjorn Grossman, who of course got involved in that opening lap skirmish at turn 1. Well, Babylos continues by taking a little bit more time out of the leading Dario Carzo car, down to 0.658 now, the margin between them. However, we're sticking with this battle between Martin Nelson, Andreas Siegler and Nicholas Sturzinger that we can see on track. These are all AM drivers together here. Nelson P2, Siegler P3 and Sturzinger P4 in the AM category, and they're all together there. Martin Nelson then leads that little trio in the AM category as car number 59 gets a warning flag. That's John Ferrano, the Rosso Corsa driver. And Babylos now is closer than he's ever been to Dario Carzo. It's a question of when, not if. Babylos has a go at the lead of Dario Carzo. The margin was 9/100ths when across the last sector timing line. Sector 1 he was 34.6 and Dario Carzo was 35.2. There you can see it confirmed on the screen. Yeah, the margin between them has been decreasing and decreasing, and now Dario Carzo's rearview mirror is absolutely full of that car of Babylos. Fastest lap he sets now, a 1:52.119. Now that came on lap 13. So Babylos means business. Carzo, one of the more difficult drivers to overtake, it has to be said, though you wouldn't have thought that when you saw him go from P1 to P3 earlier, but still convinced there was a problem with the car that caused him to slow. Taking a very wide line there so that he can carry as much speed possible down the start-finish straight as they head towards the chicane. There are back-marking cars ahead that these two are going to have to get past. The blue flag's going to be waved furiously to get those back-marking cars out of the way, because there's a real battle going on here as Babylos takes a look up the inside and thinks better of it. Top speed, 279 kilometers an hour for Dario Carzo through the speed trap then. And he has managed to breathe a sigh of relief and increase that margin between himself and Babylos to just under half a second. 0.495. Blue flags again being waved because these backmarking cars don't want to be involved. The Maxim Lukianov car and also the car of Tomaso Roca don't want to be involved in this lead battle. As again, Babylos turns the wick up and he's all over the back of Dario Carzo. Now Carzo has his lights on full to warn those backmarking cars, get out of my way, I'm the race leader, I'm coming through, and I am under extreme pressure here from Babylos. So Maxim Lukianov does yield and allows these two to continue their fair fight, and Babylos takes a look now up the inside of Dario Carzo. It's the wrong place to be, really. Dario Carzo is able to shut the door through that chicane. Dario Carzo lives to fight another few yards of this tarmac at Monza, because Babylos really does look more menacing than he's looked in this battle that has raged for a few laps now, but behind Dario Carzo. And again, Carzo takes it wide around Parabolica to try and carry as much momentum as he possibly can. And again, with backmarking cars. Now this time, surely Babylos is going to have a go. Carzo makes that car as wide as he possibly can. You can see that. Babylos has to change his course. But I think Carzo is safe once again. So Dario Carzo is driving like an absolute demon in defense here, as this charge from Babylos, well, he's getting ever closer. And the lure of the two backmarking cars ahead. Dusan Pulcra. And now Carzo has managed to get past, and there's something flapping on Carzo's car. You just see that from that camera shot there, but Carzo still able to hold on. But Babylos is right there with him. Just wondered whether Dario Carzo's car was looking a little bit looser at the rear end than Babylos's car. This in replay then, as through the chicane they managed to get past the backmarking Dusan Pulcra car. So there is Carzo, heavy braking the front splitter, actually touching the tarmac. Such is the compression at the front. And that's where I just think the back end of Dario Carzo's car looks a little bit more wayward than that of Babylos. Next in the backmarking lineup is going to be Tomaso Roca that they're going to have to get past. Babylos now, whoa, as Dario Carzo again does everything he possibly can to make it as difficult as possible for Babylos to find a way past. Now this is where Babylos surely is going to try another attempt going into the turn 1 Variante del Rettifio chicane. We saw some weaving from Carzo last time around. Babylos is going to dive to the inside. He was very nearly on the grass. He has to yield and go to the outside now. I don't know whether there was a little bit of contact there. As Carzo and Babylos go through. What do we got? 4.5 minutes. Where's the time gone in this race? You can see little bits of appear to be panel work coming off the car of Dario Carzo ahead of Babylos at the moment. In the closing stages of this race, and Tomaso Roca is going to be right involved in this battle in a moment. And of course, what we mustn't lose sight of is the fact that David Gosner is being drawn back into this battle now, because as they fight, that means that Gosner is able to get ever closer, and that's how close these two are getting. Brilliant racing from Dario Carzo and Babylos, and there you can see David Gosner not far behind either now. Let's see it on board. And this is Alessandro Vezzoni that we're on board with right now. So here comes Carzo, front end of the car squirmishing under braking, and Babylos tracking every single wheel track that Carzo is making. Just 1/10 between them. And Gosner is getting ever closer as well. I wonder whether David Gosner is sniffing the opportunity of going one better now as they're absolutely side by side. Babylos again going to be squeezed out of the final knock-ins by Dario Carzo. But now Babylos has got the inside line, and wow, Carzo just went wide of the parabolica and allowed the opportunity for Babylos just to drive through. Babylos clearly got a little bit more life left in those tyres than Dario Carzo. And Carzo is going to try and fight back here. So Babylos goes through to take up P1. Roker doing exactly the right thing and keeping out of the way of these. As car number 50, David Gosner, gets a warning flag. I wonder if that is for track limits. So Babylos now, with 2 minutes remaining in this race, gets into the lead, and it's a lead that he has fought so hard to get. And when you consider that he started way down the order in the grid, a fantastic charge from Babylos, qualified P13, and now leads this race from Dario Carzo. Their confirmation of car number 50 getting the warning flag, then can only think that that is for track limits. And Babylos has already built up a half a second margin over Dario Carzo in the space of him just getting past him. So there you can see Babylos, Carzo, Gosner and Ferrano P4. These are the pro standings with Merckx P5. Carzo was resolute in his defence. Whoa, and there's a whole heap of panel come off of Carzo's car now. I said earlier on, I thought I could see various bits coming off the Carzo car. Well, there's a whole lot more bits come off that car now. So let's take a look at the back end of it. Virtually non-existent now. The whole rear panel has gone on Dario Carzo's car. And this will be the final lap. They're about to start. There's just 1 minute left on the clock. And let's see it from on board of Alessandro Vezzoni's car as the rear panel chooses to... well, I thought we were going to see it disintegrating off of Dario Carzo's car, but we didn't see that in replay. Carzo hasn't given up on this fight as the car gets a bit wayward and sideways there, but I think Babylos now, with some 6/10 of a margin over Dario Carzo, has done enough to hold on to this lead, barring some technical or human error. I would think he's got the measure of this. He fought so hard to get past Dario Carzo, and Dario, as is his right, didn't make it very easy for him, and why on earth should he? So Carzo, minus his rear end, continues. P2 is a whole lot better than the result he had yesterday, and of course he will settle for that and bank the points. But Babylos, who led going into this race in terms of the Pro Championship category, is going to really cement the lead at the top as he takes the win in this race. What a weekend he has had. 2 out of 2 for Babylos. And, well, at least one result out of 2 for Dario Carzo, if he can manage to hold on to that car, because David Gosner is... as Carzo blitzes some of his own panel work, and now this could be a mistake from Dario Carzo. Look, he's got half of his back panel wedged into the front of the car now, and that is going to compromise that car for sure. And David Gosner is right on the tail of Dario Carzo now, but Carzo will be able to hold on as Babylos takes the checkered flag, and here comes Dario Carzo to take P2. David Gosner takes P3, all pro drivers. Then it's going to be Vezzoni that's going to take the AM win from Martin Nelson, who should take P2 in the AM category. And then Andreas Segler takes P3. Wow. Another race full of drama and incident then from the Ferrari Challenge and the TropheoPirelli category of the Ferrari Challenge, as we see Alexis Di Bernardi take the checkered flag now. Di Bernardi finishing 9th overall, finishing 5th in the AM category. So, as I said, good crowd here to enjoy the race action. And the checkered flag continues to fall on those still to cross the line. And there is Dario Carzo with half his rear end wedged into the front of the car. Work that one out, if you will. Dario then, who fought valiantly, would just love to know what the problem was that caused him to lose the lead right at the beginning of the race. Dropped 2 places, and there you can see the delight in the garages, and that's what I thought we were going to see earlier from the onboard shot of all of the panel work coming off the back end of the Dario Carzo car. Wow! So Dario Carzo waving to the crowd and waving to the marshals. His 458 looking really rather used after that race. Heading back towards the pit lane and Parc Ferme then for Carzo and Ghostner, and also for Vezzoni and Nelson and Segler. Babylos is already up the road. Alessandro Vezzoni then confirmed as the winner in the AM category. And the TropheoPirelli race. What a race at that. Absolutely brilliant stuff. The winner, Babylos then, the Autoropa driver. Well, he chased Carzo very, very hard. And he takes 2 out of 2 for the weekend. What a great result for him. And sees him cement his position right at the top of the points chart as we head off to Mugello, the beginning of May, for the next round of the Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli, both in the Pro and the AM categories. Still have a Copa Shell race to come this afternoon to entertain these race fans here at Monza. And the teams await the arrival then of Babylos, the Autoropa driver. Matteo, his Christian name, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, races under this pseudonym Babylos for his entire racing career. Pseudonym also used by his father in his racing career as well, so it's become a family tradition to use that, and seems quite measured, doesn't he, in his success. And there is Dario Carzo, who did absolutely everything he could. Dario, sadly, doesn't speak many words of English. In fact, perhaps 3. And I've so often had conversations with him which have been just a tad one-sided, as you can imagine. Babylos, the winner from Carzo and Ghostner, then in the Pro category, and then in the AM category, it's Vezzoni and Nelson and Segler, the 1, 2, 3. Time allowing, we'll bring you podiums for both. And you can see the social media at the bottom there of the screen, facebook.com/Ferrari, or of course the traditional website at corsaclienti.com is one for you to go to and find out everything that you would like to know about the Ferrari Challenge. It's all there for you. So the drivers will be heading off up to the podium in just moments from now. Some water is taken on board, and deservedly so, because whilst it's not blistering hot, it's certainly not cold either. The temperature is quite pleasant here in Monza, which is the case yesterday as well, although you wouldn't believe it, torrential rain yesterday evening. But thankfully it hasn't affected race day, either race day 1 or race day 2. So there, confirmation of the classification then in the Pro category. Babylos from Carzo, from Ghostner, Ferrano. Then it was Merckx, Purgel, Grossman and Earl. The top 8, and those not classified are Merckx, Purgel, Grossman and Earl. Of course, all of those not crossing the line, unfortunately, for one reason or another. And that, well, says it all. Dario Carzo having done everything he could to hold at bay Babylos. And Babylos had several attempts at getting past Dario Carzo. And it was here where Carzo was just perhaps carrying a little bit too much speed, which allowed Babylos to get up the inside and was able to control that car a bit more. We could just see Dario Carzo having to use a little bit of opposite lock to try and control the car, and that's what ended up costing him the lead. In the AM category, it was Vezzoni from Nelson from Segler, Sturzinger, Di Bernardi, Gadri, and then it was Romelli and Lukianov, Palka and Roca, all a few laps down, but still finishing. So the top 10 in the Race 2 classification in the AM category from the TropheoPirelli class of Ferrari Challenge. Okay, let's take a look then at the highlights of what was an extremely entertaining race. From the off then, it was Bjorn Grossman versus Dario Carzo, but what a start from this man, number 97, Tommaso Roca. But it was proved that he had jumped the start and then caused no end of problems for others as well, as they all got turned around. Babylos gets past Dario Carzo, and then we go once again on board as we see some unorthodox lines being taken through chicanes, and that was where Dario Carzo slowed and allowed David Gosner to get it past, and Manuela Gosner looked on, and then whatever was wrong with Carzo's car got put right because he managed to get past David Gosner. So whatever it was that happened to Dario Carzo's car that caused a temporary glitch, he was able to get it back into the front, but then he came under tremendous pressure from car number 55 being driven by Babylos, and it was a question of when or if Babylos was going to find a way past him. Dario Carzo certainly didn't make it easy, but in the end it was just him running wide at the Parabolica that allowed Babylos to get past and take the checkered flag to take win number 2 across the weekend. At least Dario Carzo took P2, so that's some points for race 2. And as the graphics indicate, we're off to the podium. And the top 3 in the pro category stand up for the national anthem. So national anthem plays out for Babylos then, and Dario Carzo and David Gosner up there on the podium as well. And nice to see the camaraderie between the two of them, because by Jiminy they race closest. David Gosner receives his trophy first of all for taking P3. Well done to David Gosner. 1 point, of course, he led the race, but it wasn't to be. It was going to be P3, and Marco Coldani, the vice president of the ACI Milano, is making the trophy presentation right now to Dario Carzo, and of course the top step of the podium and the number 1 trophy goes to Babylos. That's a couple he's picked up over the course of the weekend. And the team's trophy going the way of Autoropa. And then there'll be the Pirelli trophy also. So a nice little haul of trophies then for Babylos across this weekend. The first in the Ferrari Challenge. Look forward to seeing what Mugello will deliver. That's next as we head to Mugello at the beginning of May for the next round of the Ferrari Challenge. All the information at corsacalienti.com. That's the website for you to check out. Driver profiles and race results and all the information there is about the Ferrari Challenge as our cameraman makes haste his exit as David Gosner then sprints with the bubbly, and Babylos embracing team engineer there. And hopefully we will have time to bring you the AM podium. Really rather depends how quickly the man with the mop is there to clear up the champagne. But there they go, and run a really tight ship here at Monza, because Trofeo Abarth is going to be up next on track, and those cars are already leaving the pit lane. I can see from our vantage point here. So once again, we take some images then of the top three. First of all, the top three in the pro category. David Gosner, then the MP Racing team, as you can see on the splitter there at the front of the car. Then it is Babylos machine, the winner in the pro category, the Auto Roper machine, and then eventually P2 for this man, Dario Carzo, driving for Rosso Corsa and Pellin Racing. So Dario Carzo then taking P2. The fans then enjoying the race action, enjoying the weather here at Monza as well. And there, the Drivers' Championship, look at that lead. Babylos has 44 points over David Gosner, P2. John Ferrano is P3. Dario Carzo is up the leaderboard to P4 now by virtue of the fact that at least he has finished the race today. As we do get time just to see the podium here. P3, P2, and there's Alessandro Vezzoni, who for the first time I spoke to just a while before coming up to the comms booth. Vezzoni, Nelson and Sagler. National anthem again. So podium then, and the national anthem playing out for our AM category. And here comes the trophy presentation. Once again, Marco Caldoni, the Vice President of the ACI Milano, makes the P3 presentation. Next race then at 13:55, the Copa Shell Race 2. Looking forward to that already. Here comes the trophy for Alessandro Vezzoni then. And he holds it aloft with delight, and well done to the 1, 2, 3 in the AM category. There, the team's trophy then being presented to Rosso Corsa Pellin. And here comes the Pirelli trophy. So then a fine race from the Ferrari Challenge TropheoPirelli. As you've seen on screen, the Copa Shell race is still to come this afternoon to complete the 4 races across the course of the race weekend here, and the opening round of the Ferrari Challenge for 2015. And traditionally, it's always held at Monza, and been our delight to be back here once again this year as Vezzoni gets absolutely soaked. Of course, he hasn't got to use the race suit anymore this weekend, and possibly that is just as well, as Alessandro Vezzoni really enjoys the spoils of success. So there we have it then. First race of 2 done and dusted. We have a Copa Shell race still to come. Make sure you join us for that if you possibly can. But for the TropheoPirelli drivers, it's all done until the next round in Mugello at the beginning of May. Check it all out at corsaclienti.com. And Copa Shell race next at 13:55 GMT. Race 2 for them. Please join us for that if you can. From me, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.